Welcome again to the Kentucky Bourbon Festival, the 2020 virtual edition. I'm your host this afternoon, Steve Coomes, and with me is my special guest and longtime friend, Andrea Wilson from Michter's Distillery in Louisville, Kentucky. Welcome, Andrea.
Hi, Steve.
We've been here before in front of a lot of food and a lot of whiskey, and we're going to teach you this afternoon how to get an enjoyment out of both. A lot of people don't understand which foods go well with whiskey, which things go naturally, which things go better cooked, which is sweet, fat, salty, whatever. All of it works if you have enough patience and enough time to kind of put these things together and enjoy them. Andrea and I have done multiple tastings, gosh, across the country, in-state, out-of-state, wherever, to do these kinds of things that show people how to enjoy each best. Now, one of the things that we have discovered along the way is why Mikter's is so good as a pairing for foods. Tell us a little bit about what we've learned, Andrea.
Yeah, so one of the unique features of Michter's is our low entry proof. So we go into the barrel at 103 entry proof, which is really low. Everybody knows the ability under the laws, you can enter into wood up to 125. When we enter it at 103, we're about 75% whiskey in the barrel, about 25% water. All of that water contributes to a richer barrel chemistry, so that ultimately in the end, when we're ready to dump that product, we get a lot of rich flavor characteristics from the wood, and then we don't have to add as much water at bottling. So we add over 50% less water at bottling than if we had gone into the wood at 125 proof. So that essentially means you're going to get more whiskey in the bottle, which contributes to the overall experience, especially when you're having food with your whiskey.
And we also think that when we taste these things, that their flavor profile is a little bit softer, rounder, maybe even a little bit sweeter, and it just seems to kind of shake hands and get along with whatever we put against it.
Yeah, I've always felt that way, and I've had the opportunity to meet a lot of people in the industry, and there's a definite belief that lower entry proof contributes to a sweeter, more rounded profile.
So let's talk a little bit about our whiskeys this afternoon. Yeah. We have the Michter's Rye, the Michter's American Unblended whiskey, and the Michter's Bourbon.
Yes. So the Michter's Bourbon is 91.4 proof. It's very caramel forward, super easy drinker, very easy to sip, lovely. You're going to get some vanilla and caramel and just a
sniff
wonderful.
While she speaks.
Yeah. It's definitely something that enchants you. From the moment that you start smelling the aroma, it just kind of pulls you in. It's very lovely. The Unblended American whiskey, the difference here is we take our bourbon barrels, or we take our distillate, and then we put it in two different types of barrels. We put it in our new toasted and charred barrels, but then we also put some in our used bourbon barrels. We age them and then we bring them back together. The reason why it's unblended is that we do not use any grain neutral spirits or filler in the product.
Which is common to a blended whiskey, right?
Right. Yeah, so under the law, if you're not a bourbon, you're not a rye, you're not a wheat, you're not all these different characteristics, then sort of the bottom category that's left over is blended whiskey, and kind of everything gets dumped in there. Because we use our used bourbon barrels, we can't conform to a normal bourbon, so we get kicked out. We didn't want to be associated with blended whiskey. We want to have our own space, so that's why the unblended mark is on the label. So beautifully easy to drink, 83.4 proof.
And the rye.
And then the rye is super smooth, very easy to drink. It's a Kentucky style rye. So we stay closer to 51% on the rye grain. We don't disclose our mash bills, but we add more corn and more malted barley to balance the spicy characteristics of the rye. Super smooth, very easy drinker. Again, Michter's whole house style is rich, flavorful, easy drinking whiskey that really contributes to a full body experience.
So some of the richness in whiskey, we're going to talk about richness in food, and we have found over a lot of these pairings that fat is a key element in the success of why these things go together. You take something like cheese or chocolate, or later we'll talk with a little bit of protein. in the mix that when you coat your palate with fat, you give your mind and your tongue this idea of what these foods really taste like. And then the whiskey with the alcohol comes in and kind of scrubs it clean and gives it a really vibrant new a set of flavors that you might not have expected. We always talk about complementing, contrasting, and elevating in these pairings. A complementary pairing is where the whiskey and the food pretty much get along. It's kind of like a first date. You know, you're nice enough to hang around together, but you don't know each other very well. Contrast is kind of like that second date that doesn't go so well. It's not a bad thing, but you're deciding that maybe these are not the best partners. But it's still kind of a fun experience, especially when you taste how food and whiskey make each other taste differently. But when you elevate, both come together and become a whole different set of flavors and a combination that's just perfect and really exciting. What we've done for years, though, is we do these kind of open comparisons, which you're going to see today, that result in a structured pairing. So like we'll have, in the beginning, we used to have 5 country hams, right? And we'd have 5 whiskeys, and we went down the row and we tasted why these whiskeys worked well with these hams. Then we started adding in cheese, and thanks to you, Andrea has really kind of pushed the boundaries for me and what I like to pair with foods by adding cheeses and different desserts, I should say. We have chocolate, we have oatmeal cookies, we have Queen Amman pastry, all these different flavors, and you're going to see some of the proteins come in here shortly too. The thing that when we get across to people that the sky is kind of the limit. You get to try whatever you want to try with your whiskey. Some things are going to work, some things aren't going to work. Even the worst contrast has never been a disaster. It's not like, ugh. It's just like, it's not so good. We'll move forward, right? But we're going to show you all the genius behind it is really trial and error. So let's get started. What would you like to go with first?
Yeah, I think a really nice pairing, I think we start with the bourbon. Again, it's very caramel forward, you know, some vanilla, things like that, but there's a fruitiness to it. So, you know, I love Capriole Farm is a wonderful goat. She makes different styles of goat cheese. This is the Juliana. And any of these cheeses can be ordered online. So again, it's Capriole Farms. Lovely. She's got little flour on the rind.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Herbs and such too.
Herbs and etc. that really sort of enhance the characteristics of the bourbon. It's beautiful. Really elegant, but those floral and herbally characters really go nicely with the fruity caramel characteristics of the bourbon. So we'll give that a go. And I think it's always interesting, like I noticed Steve is smelling.
We play with our food here.
Yeah, smell your cheese, smell your whiskey. You know, a big part of the experience is the aromatic experience that you're having. And then go through the tasting part and keep tasting and trialing and error, but it's really, really fun to see how the experience changes.
So whatever flowers that Judy Shadd, who is the cheesemaker behind Capriole, has chosen here, there's some really bright, sweet, cotton candy-ish kind of notes that will really go well with this bourbon. Again, coat the palate. Sugar, sugar. I mean,
Yeah.
There's sweet and sweet on both sides.
It's,
Gosh, that's good.
yeah, this is a super great pairing. I
That's
mean,
an elevate.
just super easy experience. And then you're kind of left in the end going, wow, that is delicious.
And when you go back, it doesn't hurt to smell them again because things change when you've already got, a voluble chemical like alcohol in your mouth can really affect the way you smell. That's good. Mm-hmm. By the way, some of these things go on for a couple of hours. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of spitting and pouring out, so be wise in how you consume.
Mm-hmm. And it is really fun, especially if you're doing things at home, like so many of us are. That's part of the fun and the enjoyment of the experience is trial and error and doing different things, and you will learn from it. And it's really, really fun to do with friends and family.
What would you like to try next? You want to do another cheese? You want to contrast the...
While we're on the bourbon, it might be fun to just try the Queen Amman.
Okay.
So the Queen of Mon is a beautiful pastry. It's made with a lot of butter. So
not a bad thing. Never a bad thing.
I've chosen this one because it will also give you some insight before we get to the hams later, just how whiskey can cut through some of the fattier, deeper, richer characteristics and really create a beautiful experience as well.
These came from Blue Dog Bakery in Louisville, if you're interested, and this is what the place smells like when you walk in. And hopefully on your clothes when you leave.
And it's interesting because people say you can't smell sweet, and I'm like, no, I believe you can. When you walk into a bakery, that aroma of sweetness and gives you kind of this warm feel, and this is a great one to drink with or to eat with bourbon as well.
I'm surprised how prominently that highlights the bourbon. Really brightens the caramel. Really brightens the oak. Things that you don't normally pick up. I might not pick up that, I should say, that if I just drank it neat. The food is making it those flavors more accessible to me.
It's almost like it breaks down the characters so that
Exactly.
you can really taste them as it moves across your palate. Super fun, really fun to do, and Queen of Mon are just delicious anyway, and I'm sure they're very low calorie.
Yeah, low carb. Okay, let's bounce back with a heavier fat. Which cheese would you like to play with? You want to do the blue cheese and the chocolate?
We are going to go that route. So this is one of our all-time favorite pairings that we have come up with. And by the way, we're going to get to some chocolate here in a second that is made by Art Edibles in Louisville. Another great location here in Louisville. Our friend Kelly Ramsey and her husband Forrest. They make beautiful chocolates there, and we have some to share with you. But we normally sit down with Kelly a lot of times, and we'll taste chocolates and chocolate creations and all kinds of confectionaries that she comes up with. This opportunity presented itself because we were doing cheeses, and she said, I wonder what would happen if we did chocolate and cheese. And so we chose, this is a Bayley Hazen blue cheese. Really, really smooth, easy to eat blue cheese. A lot of people are offended by blue cheese. They don't like it. They don't like the aroma around it. It's too strong. It's very polarizing.
Yeah.
This is a very soft blue cheese, very approachable blue cheese, so it doesn't have that punch that a lot of blue cheeses have. But doing it with chocolate and pairing it with this American whiskey it's dynamite. It is just an explosive experience in your mouth, and I really mean that. It really comes to life. It's very brilliant and rich.
So this first layer is like a chocolate cheeseburger, if you can imagine that. A chocolate blue cheeseburger. Weird, I know, but trust us. And then when you roll this whiskey into it, this was it 82 proof, very low.
83.4.
83.4. Yay.
I mean, it is. It's so vibrant, so fresh, so delicious.
And Kelly had to kind of pull us along on this one and just say, I know it sounds weird, but it's good. This is really a good combination. Yeah, so many tastings we've done, we've seen people's faces just go, I'd have never thought that would have worked.
And it's almost like it all wraps up together.
It does.
I mean,
becomes
it's
one
like
whole.
cheese and chocolate, and then the bourbon or the American whiskey comes around, and it just creates this beautiful little package that, as it moves across your tongue, you really get a lot of vibrant flavors. And I don't know, I used the word one day, it was like sprightly. It's just this, it's a feel-good, happy experience. Really wonderful.
That's
Love
a
it.
good one. I'm stealing that, sprightly.
Yeah, I don't know, I made it up, I think.
It works, but it works. So I love grain flavors, and I love these oatmeal cookies, so I think that'd be an excellent pairing with the rye.
Yes.
Don't you? Want to give it a shot?
So these are oatmeal molasses cookies, also from Blue Dog Bakery.
You should see the camera guys' faces right now. They're like, oh man, booze and cookies. You'll get yours afterwards, we promise. Any bystanders too. Our producers.
And by the way, there's no right or wrong way to do this. I usually like to taste the food first and then introduce the whiskey with the food. But if you start with the whiskey and go the other way, it's not wrong. You can do it however you like. But I usually like to taste
That's a great point.
Food that I'm tasting first and then understand how the whiskey is going to influence it.
I do too. And you probably see me being a little bit over the top with rolling those foods around in my mouth. You just want to coat every bit of the palate that you can. Because the whiskey's going to go there, so why not put the food there? Cookie and whiskey sure beats cookie and milk, I think. But you can't pull it off in kindergarten. Kids would sleep, but I don't think they'd like it. Love it.
This is really, really, really good.
That's an explosive pairing to me because the rye grain just shows up so strong. This thing to me punches way above its weight at 84 proof. It's not hot in the sense that the proof comes out, but all the flavor that usually comes with proof, like for me anyway, rye grain tends to come on the heels of high proof. But that's just great. Guess I'm not going to be getting that beach body this year that I so hoped. Like it had a start.
Yeah, this one's really fun too because I almost get, like, this is an oatmeal molasses cookie. This is a rye whiskey. But somehow when you bring them together, now I'm almost getting like a syrup quality, almost like a maple syrup or a, just really, really good.
And by the way, I'm kind of breaking my own rule. Like in some of these videos, we talked about how to nose properly, with your mouth open. These are such gentle spirits that it's all nose, baby, for me. I don't have to open my mouth on them. I just think those are great. Such a clean, fresh, simple pairing. All right, one more cheese before we switch to the proteins.
All right, I'm going to hold the Piper's Pyramid for the proteins because I know we've done that one before, but I think we're going to try the Norwood, which is a Kenny's cheese. Kenny's cheese is a wonderful producer here in Kentucky. Makes a whole plethora of cheeses. This happens to be one of my personal favorites. They're Norwood. And it's a lovely cheese to pair with really any of these whiskeys. We've kind of gone through this and there's not like a clear winner. It's just a good sound. It works with anything. Just really delicious.
Real subtle, but cheesy in the, oh gosh.
It's almost like Parmesan cheesy for me.
But not so
but not
dried and overpowering, which Parma's beautiful.
Very buttery.
Oh my gosh.
And I think there's almost like a little salty quality too.
Crunch it. What did you go with? Did you do the rye or?
I did the bourbon.
Okay. Oh, bourbon's first, that's right.
And this is like, for me, putting the bourbon with it is like caramel coated cheese chunks. Someone should invent that. Totally buy it.
Now, I really like this, but I feel the bourbon dominates. Not in a bad way, but it overpowers the cheese on my palate just a little bit. It's really good though. Again, that's probably a contrast if we were to rate them, but it's not a bad contrast. I'd be more than happy if somebody served me that. They're really nice people. They just didn't get along that well.
Yeah.
Don't set them up.
It's interesting though.
Don't do the blind date with them.
It's interesting though, because what you feel about the bourbon, I just felt about the American whiskey. I felt like it was a little more dominant. I enjoyed it, but just a little more dominant I'm going to try it with the rye now.
That beats the American whiskey into the background. I mean, now the cheese wins for me on that one. Okay. This is all for the sake of science, people. We have to have a little more cheese, a little more whiskey. As should you, if you're at home.
Wow.
And by the way, you don't see our water bottles, but we have them. So make sure you have plenty of water when you do this, not only to cleanse your palate between tastes, but to drink responsibly.
This one's, I'm interested to hear what you say about this one because this one's really interesting for me.
Man, that's different.
Maybe it's just me today, but I didn't remember it bringing out sort of this floral character.
I get that, and I also get a toasted barrel. Are those barrels toasted? Are all Michter's barrels, according to straight specs, toasted then charred?
That's correct.
Okay.
So we naturally season and air dry our wood for at least 18 months, up to 5 years. And then that gets rid of bitter, astringent green characters in the wood. But then also we're going to toast it before we char it. So everybody knows charring, but toasting is the art of slow heating the wood to allow us to break down and extract different characters in the wood. So really contributes to the overall experience.
That was a lot of fun. Now, we're going to do a magic TV break and rotate in the proteins.
Love getting prices that are lower than low on food that's fresher than fresh? With the Kroger app, you can get personalized coupons on top of weekly sales and rewards like fuel points, all for prices that are lower than the everyday low. So go ahead, get lower than low. Kroger, fresh for everyone.
We are more than just a general contractor. From land acquisition and development to self-performing trades like design and engineering, site, concrete, masonry, steel fabrication, steel erection and hardscapes, building repairs and maintenance, warehouse remediation, fall protection inspections and installations, and K-Rack's premium spirits barrel storage systems. We work together. 4 divisions, 3 generations, 1 team. We are Cutter.
Through the magic of television cameras, we have here now a bunch of proteins. This is not like something cool that we did. We just turned things off and shoved them in. Isn't that cool?
I know, it's amazing.
I wish we could do that in our big tastings. Sometimes we do tastings for 150 people, and none of that gets to happen. You're all live, but here we are. So just real quickly, we have, believe it or not, these are things that you could have at your house and do. So we have smoked baby back ribs. This is Benton's country ham. It's a 19-month-old country ham cured in Maryville, Tennessee. This is just braised pork belly, or smoked pork belly, I should say. It's one step away from being fried like bacon, but it's fully cured, fully smoked. This is smoked Scottish salmon, lovely. And we have the Piper's Pyramid cheese back here. And the reason why we have this is not only because Andrea wants to play around with it and taste it, but I think it'll be a good kind of a blunt force to the tongue to get off some of these really salty products that we have here. So at any rate, I want to go bold first. Let's try that. It's kind of like going the reverse. I would think you would sometimes give people low proof whiskey and work them up to high.
That's correct.
I'm going to go work backward on flavor because I love these and they're still hot, which is good. Nobody wants cold ribs, right? So would you like the Freddie Flintstone rib or the Wilma Flintstone rib?
I will take the Wilma, thank you.
You're such a dainty lass. Okay, so these were smoked by me. Whether that's USDA approved or not, I don't know. But we have a lot of smoke on the table here. Oh, so fatty. There's a lot of fat. That's more than I expected. Oh my gosh.
Really delicious, but a lot of fat, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Fully keto for those tracking at home. So you want to go bourbon first? Is that right?
Well, I'm just smelling them, and
it's another good trick. Put the food in your mouth, smell. I think it would overwhelm the American.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And when I first smelled the bourbon, I was like, wow, this is like a whole caramel thing going on. Let me try the rye.
So, all right, we'll start freestyling a little bit. I love rye with smoked foods. You don't you don't have to do that. You ought to go with bourbon, and we ought to go backward.
Okay.
Because I think the grain flavor cuts through the fat of smoked foods and the smoke of smoked foods. So, I've never been a rye and barbecue combination I didn't like. That to me just comes out so much spearmint gum, which I love that flavor in rye.
Oh.
Just bright, lemony, kind of lemon balm. Yummy.
This just reminded me of if anybody ever had ham that your mom would put like Coca-Cola on, and how it would the juices down at the bottom of the pan were so syrupy, and that's what it does for me with the bourbon. Now I'm going to try the rye.
You sold it well. You're dead on. Coca-Cola, like flat Coca-Cola. Just syrupy.
Ooh. Now that is like a good pickle with like a good pastrami sandwich or something.
Oh, nice.
You
nice.
know,
So you're
something.
getting a dill note in the background there?
Yeah.
Very common to
Interesting.
rye.
Really interesting. Love
See?
that.
So scientific, right? Just do this stuff. Grab, pour, smell, taste, mix them up.
It's part of the fun because we always talk about whiskey brings people together. What better way to enjoy food and whiskey together and have some fun talking about your experiences?
That's right. This will not cause a fight. This will only deepen your friendship.
All right.
All right. So let's
I've
go.
got to sit my over there.
All right.
Did a
Flintstone
pretty
food,
good
set
number
that
on
aside.
So it does not disturb the rest
Hungry
of our
camera
experience.
crew. There's goodies over there. All right, so let's do something. I want something super fatty like this, either the salmon or the belly. Which would you prefer?
I'm a huge fan of smoked salmon, so
go
I
there.
think we go there.
So I'll take that one. You can take the other one.
Okay.
So this is something else I love to do. It's probably out of the frame at this point, right? But I will do this in group pairings and hold things up to the light just so you can kind of see the animal you're eating, I guess. But the clarity, I love the meat. That's a byproduct of curing. Scientifically, I'm not sure how that happens, but and some of it is surely the thickness of the slice. This is really good stuff. If you like smoked salmon, don't buy the bright orange stuff. Buy this smoked salmon, colored salmon.
Dreamy. No, it is. It's delicious. So good. And my hand is just naturally reaching for the rye, so I don't know if there's something there, but I do think that there is as you get familiar with whiskeys and as you get familiar with foods, your mind automatically has a positioning, whether you agree with it or not, but
See, that makes the rye like candy to me. Got these big cherry peach notes out of it. The spice in the rye seems to be pushed into the background. Totally different whiskey now than it was with the ribs. Love it.
that's so interesting because, everybody knows rye is a spicy whiskey, but now it's not so spicy.
Really muted.
It's yielding to fruit and floral and just a different experience.
So how would you classify that? Complementing or complementary, contrasting, or elevating?
That's a tough one. I mean, I think I would probably put it in the category of complementing because I feel like it's flavors coming together to give you something new and different. That's what I believe a complementary experience is.
But neither is really the better for it. Like, forgot the darn word. Complement, contrast, elevate. It's not an elevated pairing.
Delicious. All
All right.
right.
Get on to a little belly. Get in my belly. See,
All right.
got some authentic char on there. Should have spotted that before we started.
All right.
All right, so you can smell the hickory that I smoked it over.
Ooh, yes.
Isn't that lovely?
So just like you'll oftentimes see people put whiskey in their hands and rub their hands together and then smell to see if they can smell the recipe or the grains, it's the same with this. Getting that oiliness in your fingers and then rubbing
totally
them together.
Agree. I totally agree. Your fingers, your flesh is neutral to your nose. So if you're lifting it up with like gloves on, or God forbid anybody would do that, but anything other than your flesh, you're gonna give something to your olfactory senses that aren't natural. So fatty.
I know, it's good.
Just if you held it on your hand long enough, it'd start to melt.
Oh my God. So good.
Because the American is often the unheralded hero in these pairings, except for that chocolate and blue cheese. I want to try it. I want to see what it'll do. Just that such a simple whiskey tends to work so well, blows me away.
Ooh.
No es mi favorito. It's all the Spanish you're getting out of me today, I promise. Let's try something else. All in the in quest of science. And
I'm actually going to try the Piper's Pyramid with this.
along with the belly,
Yes. See what we do
you are off
here.
the chain, Andrea.
I know, going wild.
And not to be left behind.
That's a great pairing.
Get on the phone. Just the food pairing alone is great. Get on the phone to Judy Shad. You need a bacon pyramid. All right, I'm like you. I'm going for the rye. So, Andrea's former partner in crime, master distiller Pam Heilman, who recently retired from Michter's, was big on rye. And I think I don't think you're as crazy about rye as we are, but you love rye. I think your toasted barrel rye, if you can ever find it, it's like hen's teeth, doesn't exist, is a great drinking and food pairing whiskey. I think we've only gotten to do one pairing with that because it was gone. Make more, please.
Will do. I'm on it.
Just because you said, Steve. That just really pushes the whiskey up. I think it's beautiful.
It's really interesting because with the pork belly, with the Piper's Pyramid from Capriolo Farms, and with both the bourbon and the rye, suddenly I get like baking spices.
Okay.
Like
so
really like some
bourbon.
nutmeg and even like some cloves and some cinnamon and really
totally
interesting.
with the bourbon. Absolutely.
Really interesting.
Spice cake.
Spice cake. Yeah.
Yeah,
Really
that's,
good.
That's the better of the three for that. So now we're going to really hit hard with smoke. This is from Benton's Country Hams. I keep saying Maryville, but I think I'm wrong. It's in southeastern Tennessee. It's fantastic. They're known for their heavy hickory smoke application, and this is no diversion from that path.
Thank you, sir.
They really pour it on, and yet they get away with it. It's just not, it's not overwhelming. And you see this fat, this is like nature's perfect balance of muscle and fat. And you really want that fat in the country ham because it coats the palate. It holds so many flavors. This really tells the story of the nutrients that that hog had. This is a heritage breed hog that led a good life until that one bad day. That joke never gets old, does it? But this is especially is one. Andrew's already way down the road ahead of me that you want to play with and get on your hands. That is all barnyard and smoke.
So good.
This ham can stand up to really high proof whiskey and beat it back if it needs to.
Yeah, this would be good for like a Michter's 10-year rye.
Well,
What?
can you imagine that?
What?
Yet we have no empty glass for it.
Well, here,
Oh,
let me take care of that.
okay. Madame. So this is the 2020 release of Michter's 10-year rye. Would you like to tell us about it, Andrea? Other than the fact that I gushed when I got it. It's my favorite.
Yeah,
of it.
so as with all Michter's 10-year releases, we age them till their quality of readiness. So we don't release something just because, we release it when it's ready. And often our 10-year whiskeys are over 10 years old. So we don't necessarily tell you how old they are, but we've had whiskeys 11, 12, 13, 15 years old in these bottles, and that's part of the commitment to quality that we give to the consumer. The 2020 release, our master distiller, Dan McKee, did a brilliant job selecting the release for 2020. It's really beautiful.
Oh my gosh, that's just so much brighter, so much spicier. And the proof is barely different. This is what you probably know it off the top of your head, 43.2? Or no, I mean, sorry, 93.2?
94.4, right? 94.4?
This is why I'm a journalist and not a mathematician. That among many other reasons. Lack of study would be the key reason. I'm so glad I had that spare bottle. And you made mention of it. Was that just an outrageous pairing?
Suddenly, I mean, it's like, this is another one where you get like that explosion of flavor. It's got a lot of boldness that comes out, and a lot of almost like in the back, I get a lot of smoke and a lot of hickory coming forward.
From that. That's yours, by the way. You can have that last slice.
Oh, just amazing.
It and I get a lot of floral character from the rye. I always have a little background bubblegum note on that. Anybody at home ever had what's that? I think Founders makes the beer. Forgive me, Founders, if you don't, or someone else if you don't. Or is it Sun King, the gumball head wheat? Anybody had that? Anybody in the audience? Beer people? No? That's the intro right there. And that's a yeast note, isn't it, that makes that kind of bubblegum attribute. All right. Andrea Wilson, thanks so much.
Yeah,
thanks for
thank
sharing your
you.
amazing whiskey. All these Michter's American whiskeys are at your local liquor stores. You can find them online. You can find them in restaurants if they reopen anytime soon. And you also can find many of these products in restaurants, in grocery stores, online. So the now vacant plate for the Benton's Country Hams, you can order those online at, gosh, I think it's bentoncountryhams.com. Do that. This was pretty ordinary smoked salmon that you can find in a Whole Foods. You can find braised belly probably in restaurants. I did that just for fun for this tasting at my own house. I'm not a producer. I'm not USDA rated. But these are amazing cheeses done by Capriole Farmstead. I believe it's farmsteadcheeses.com. Look for those. Judy Shad, if you want to look up her name, she's the creator of these amazing cheeses. And the whole point is we hope that you would do these at home. I don't care what you have at home. I've done pairings with Halloween candy and whiskey. Enjoy them, learn what works well together, laugh at what doesn't work well together, and then just go ahead. The whole point is to enjoy these things and understand that they have fantastic uses in ways that we don't even understand half the time. Sit and sip with us because we have so much more to come. We have people talking about aging whiskey, rick houses, about, the places they've been, the wonderful Russell and No families from Wild Turkey and Jim Beam, respectively, are going to tell some of the most funny stories about being bourbon ambassadors across the globe. Are you doing that yet? Are you traveling globally?
I do
You
travel
are.
globally.
I knew you weren't a stay-at-home girl. So enjoy the rest of the festival. Have a lot of fun with this. And we'll see you next year, live in 2021.